Coming up on No Pulp, two former top 10 teams have crashed back down to earth.
And President Biden hasn't given the State of the Union yet, so we're taking that responsibility upon ourselves and giving our own version here on the show tonight.
Plus, Ethan, you'll be debating Srikar Rajendran in the juicer. You don't want to miss it. All that and a whole lot more. It's No Pulp. It starts right now.
Fraudulent teams in college basketball.
And it was fired? They're not going to fire him. He's the best player in program history.
Side to Lawrence for the win! Yes! He got it!
She is the Shohei Ohtani of college softball.
This is a team that's potentially going to be a top 10 team in the country.
How you feeling?
I'm excited to win the juicer.
LSU has captured its very first national championship.
Hey there, welcome in to No Pulp. Ethan Frank, Austin Barach here. Ethan, Super Bowl Sunday is in the past, but I saw a very interesting stat pop up on my television earlier today. And you know, Patrick Mahomes, he's just the first player in NFL history, he is pretty good, to win 3 Super Bowl MVPs and 2 regular MVPs. Only 7 players have ever done a championship 3 times and 2 regular MVPs. One of those 7 players is Larry Bird. He played for Indiana State. Indiana State ranked for the first time since 1978. That's worth a shutout, but they're one spot behind the first team we're talking about today, Kentucky. Coach Calipari.
This man is a pro
I know you got a lot of thoughts about Coach Calipari. The Wildcats have lost 3 of their last 4. They just lost at home to Gonzaga, 89-85 on their home floor. Ethan, what's wrong with Kentucky?
Well, I don't know if this is a this year problem, Austin.
Systemic?
I've always been out on Coach Calipari.
Yeah.
I was on this program 2 years ago talking about how John Calipari is a fraud, because he is. I don't care how well Kentucky recruits. I don't care how talented these players are. John Calipari is not a coach. He is a bag man. He is not a coach.
Will Wade is a bag man.
Will Wade is definitely a bag man. John Calipari is not a coach. He doesn't develop players. He just wants them to get through Kentucky and then get to the NBA. That's all he wants. This is a team that hasn't made a Final Four since 2015, hasn't made it to the second weekend since 2019. That's 5 years ago at this point. That's unacceptable at the University of Kentucky. I am just done with John Calipari. He doesn't deserve any credit for the success his players have in the NBA. He is not a college basketball coach or a developer of men.
Well, last week during this slide, he deflected the blame from himself, and he just spoke about how many All-Stars are going to this year's NBA draft that played at Kentucky, speaking to your point. But Ethan, you can't lie to me. Like 3 weeks ago when they were humming, I mean, remember, this team beat North Carolina. This team took a tough Texas A&M team to overtime in College Station. This team's got loads of talent. You talk about Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepard, AJ Reeves, DJ Wagner. Ethan, at some point this season, I thought this team was kind of a national title contender, but they're just so unserious on the defensive
Incredibly
end.
unserious.
124th in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency. That's worse than Corpus Christi, Texas State, Marist out of the MAG. I mean, this is just a really bad defensive Kentucky.
What'd you just say?
The MAG.
You're a sheep? Bad.
It's just the MAG with 2 A's. Come on.
I mean, these results are just not good. Look at this. 103 points to Tennessee.
That's a red flag
89
right
points
there.
to Gonzaga. 94 points to Florida. I understand that game was in overtime. You talked about this defense. These are some atrocious showings. And I might talk about Dalton Connect at Tennessee a little bit later.
Sure.
But you should not be giving up 103 points in regulation
On your own
to
court.
any team.
I mean, 3 straight
especially
home
at home.
losses.
Yeah,
It's really
this is unacceptable. John Calipari, I can never get behind him. I will never get behind him. And especially this year, I will not get behind Kentucky.
It's fair enough, Ethan. I don't have a whole lot of counterpoints right there. I still believe that this Kentucky team can reach the second weekend, but they're nowhere near the national title contender that I once thought they were.
Well, we'll see what happens with Coach Cal and the Wildcats. But let's shift it over to the women's game, a big game in the ACC. You know, the Pac-12 used to be talked about as the Conference of Champions. It feels like the ACC is the Conference of Champions when it comes to women's college basketball. Virginia Tech and NC State, a big ranked matchup. The Hokies go into Raleigh, win by double digits. I mean, Liz Kitley, she's a monster.
She really is, Ethan. I mean, double-double in this game. But what I really want to talk about is Georgia Amor. Sure, Kitley has the fadeaways, and she's awesome.
I mean, her shot-making ability is incredible.
It's incredible. She is unguardable in the pick and roll. She is quick. She is feisty. She plays with an edge. I mean, nobody can stop her. She's either scoring when she uses that pick and roll, or she's flaring it out to a wide-open corner shooter. There's just no stopping this offense right now. Kenny Brooks has this team humming.
Yeah, and when you think about Amor, the thing when you talked about the pick and roll, she is able to come so tightly off of these screens
smart
that
player.
yes, really, really smart. That's how you use a ball screen to your advantage, and she does such a good job of doing that and creating more space for herself than maybe her teammates or contemporaries would because of her body control and her quickness.
Yeah, and she put up nearly a triple-double. She's never out of rhythm. I honestly think in a conference full of great point guards, she's the best one of them. And it also helps
And
to
Deasia
have,
Fair?
Yes, I do believe that she's better than Deasia Fair, and I know that Fair is great. I think she's awesome. But you look at this Virginia Tech team really rounding into form. Remember, Final Four team last year, they were kind of on cruise control for most of the season. But now when it's time for February, when it's time for winning time, they're turning it up. I mean, you got Kayla King and Matilda Eck are some good three-point shooters, each of them with 54-plus three-point makes this season. This is a really well-built team, a team that could potentially return to the Final Four.
Yeah, the two key stats that stuck out to me, Virginia Tech was plus 17 on the boards.
Wow.
And then plus 18 in threes. I mean, made 6 more threes. So when you're plus 18 in threes, in three-point shooting, and you're plus 17 on the boards, those are two pretty critical stats.
Yeah, good things are going to happen. Well, transitioning back to men's basketball right now, a team that's been stuttering as of like Wisconsin. The Badgers have lost 4 straight games, Ethan. This was once a team
lot of games.
that was
It's a lot
ranked
of games.
in the top 10, number 6, just a couple weeks ago. I know they've had some tough road games. They only home game in this stretch was against Purdue, who we know is very good, and we'll see what happens come tournament time. But Ethan, they
Why,
just
does
lost
something
that
usually
Rutgers.
happen to Purdue come tournament time?
I don't know. So they just have a history of choking at every single level. But they just lost by 22 points in New Jersey against Rutgers, and they were just outmatched.
Yeah, with Wisconsin, I mean, this is a team. I think I don't want to say they're fraudulent, but they might be a little bit fluffy.
Yeah.
I think is where I'm at right now.
Fluffy.
I'm not going to go all the way to the super extreme F word. I'm going to stay at the more calm F word with fluffy.
All right. Well, I mean, you look at the offense here with Wisconsin. I mean, it's a good offense. It's good. They're top 20 in KenPom, but when the going gets tough, when the other team is scoring, when their defense is not on, that offense looks a lot worse. They just can't keep up. A lot of their offense is predicated on mid-post action curl screens. When they're just letting up points, they're just really not built to come back in games. That's going to hurt them in the tournament.
Yeah, and you mentioned the loss to Purdue. Like, losing at home to Purdue is not the end of the world. Yeah. But when you sandwich that with 3 road losses, I mean, dealt a pretty poor hand with this schedule. But in the Big Ten, that's kind of just what you're going to get. And, I talk about, I reserve the word fraudulent for people like John Calipari and James Franklin. That's who I reserve that word for. But, with Wisconsin, I feel like they were just dealt a bad hand with this schedule. Obviously, you never want to lose 4 games in a row. And it was a really, really bad loss at Rutgers. You shouldn't be losing by 20-plus points to that kind of team.
But look, I mean, Michigan's not a good team.
No,
they're not a good team at all.
The conference is competitive. And when the conference is competitive and you're not playing at your best, you're prone to lose, and that's what happened.
That's right. I mean, Nebraska, everybody loses at Nebraska. It's a tough situation. The schedule gets a little bit easier. They got Ohio State at home, a team that just barely squeaked out an overtime win against a bad team in Maryland. So they should get back on track, but I'm not buying Wisconsin overall heading into March. Well, we've talked enough basketball right now. We'll bring in a third member after a quick break. Srikar Rajendran will be talking to Ethan Frank about all things transfers and freshmen. You don't want to miss it.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why couldn't the Why was the basketball court all wet? Why? Because the players kept dribbling all over it. Where did cats go on vacation? New York.
Welcome back to No Pulp, Austin Barach, Ethan Frank, Srikar, Rajendran here at the wall in the Juicer, everybody's favorite debate show where I toss out 3 questions, maybe 4 if we're tied up after 3 questions, and you guys just pick, you have the best arguments, and I'll pick whoever's argument I like more. 1 point for the first question, 2 points for the second question, and 3 points for the third question, and maybe a bonus question if
I hope you guys at home can do math.
I hope I can too. It's important that I know math right here. So the first one right now, Ethan, I'll go to you first. The best freshman in the women's game right now. There's a lot of really good freshmen. Who's the best of them all?
It's got to be Hannah Hidalgo, and I know you've gotten the pleasure of seeing her play in person twice, so you can respect what I'm about to give you. I mean, have you looked at her numbers, Srikar? She's averaging 25 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, 5 assists, and 5 steals. She takes the ball away from the opponent 5 times. She's shooting 48% from the field, 37% from 3. 80% from the free throw line. I mean, she hasn't scored less than 20 points in a game since January 7th. That was the only time she scored under 20 since November. It's February. That was a long time ago. She's played in every game this season. You know what they say? The best ability, availability. Sure. Hannah Hidalgo is leading a Notre Dame team that is playing above where it should be right now. She is raising their ceiling. This is a player that is carrying a group as a true freshman, and she's doing it expertly.
Srikar, your rebuttal.
Well, you talk about carrying a team. You talk about elevating. Juju Watkins out of USC is the obvious pick if we want to go in that regard. Look, I'll respect Hannah Hidalgo's all-around game. 8 30-point games for Juju Watkins, including a 51-piece against Stanford. And the team scored 67 total in that game.
Wow.
So if we do the math there, Watkins accounted for 76% of her team's points. Incredible athleticism. She can blow by anybody. I mean, she is absolutely incredible, a deep bag of handles. And what's best of all, she looks like a seasoned pro who's just playing against plumbers at this point. So
plumbers?
I think
you're calling the rest of women's college basketball plumbers right now?
No. She makes them look like it because she's so good. Now, look, I think the sky is quite literally the ceiling for Watkins. And you talk about carrying. USC is a top 10 team in the nation after being unranked last year. That is impact, and I think Juju Watkins has it.
I mean, look, Ethan, you present some great points, some great personal points. Srikar, I mean, the 51 points. The fact that Hidalgo and the Irish are actually underperforming this season from where they should be. The fact that they lost both of those games that I had the pleasure of seeing. I mean, Watkins is unbelievable. I mean, in any normal year, Hidalgo would be the answer here, but the point has to go to Srikar here. Juju Watkins is a beast. All right, Srikar up 1-0 right now. Srikar gets the first stab at this next question right here. The best transfer in the women's basketball game. A whole lot of transfers. I know Haley Van Lith, she might not even be brought up right here because of how deep it is. Srikar, who are you going with?
Yeah, it's not going to be Haley Van Lith. I'm actually going to go with Diamond Johnson out of Norfolk State.
Would you call her a diamond in the rough?
Wow. That's low-hanging fruit.
Sometimes, it'll speak for itself because this is a diamond in the rough. You're averaging 20 points a game, okay? 21, it's 20.6 points per game. And, 6 boards a game. You know how tall she is?
No.
5'5".
Wow.
So it's actually pretty incredible that
what she high school for me.
She led NC State in scoring last season, had an injury, transfers to Norfolk State, and now it is very, very fruitful for her. I think she is the best transfer in women's college basketball.
Well, I feel like it's hard to say that when you're dealing with a team like Norfolk State. I mean, no offense to Norfolk State, but this is Norfolk State we're talking about, Srikar.
It's still respectable numbers.
Seems like tremendous offense to Norfolk State.
Well, we don't need to talk about Norfolk State anymore. Let's talk about, I wore purple tonight because I'm going to talk about, you mentioned Haley Van Lith, her teammate with the LSU Tigers, that'd be Anissa Morrow. She's averaging 17 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, over a steal per game while shooting nearly 50% from the field and over 80% from the free throw line. She's playing less minutes than she was at DePaul last season, but is still just as effective. Her numbers may be a little bit down, but that's because her usage is down. When you're playing on a team with Haley Van Lith and Angel Reese, you're not going to be scoring that many points and being used that much. Yet she is still making an impact in every facet of the game. On a potential title team, this is a player that can do a lot of different things, and coming over from DePaul, she's made a huge impact for the Tigers.
This is interesting. This is a real bridge point right now because, look, Norfolk State, I love them. Diamond, I mean, the name speaks for itself. Yeah. LSU, they've been humming all season, but she's not even like a top 3 player on her team. So with that, Srikar takes the 2-0 lead right now. Ethan, these are some great points, but Srikar's just been making some slightly better
Well, can you offer me some
points.
help? What do I need to do to make my points better?
Just be better. I mean,
just be better. What does that mean?
I don't know.
He's just telling you to level up here, okay? It's as simple
what
as
that.
What
do you need to do? Get higher? Get on your level here?
Well, that's impossible for you. I mean, that's impossible for you. I don't know. Maybe you should have watched that Top Gun theme song entering this juicer right here.
Wow.
But for the third and potential final question, or potentially it's the penultimate question, I don't know yet. Let's go to Ethan for this one right here. The best transfer in the men's game. Again, a transfer portal is immense. So many to pick from. Ethan, who's the best one?
Well, I mean, this is a pretty simple answer here, Austin. I gotta go with Dalton Connect from Tennessee. I mean, comes over from Northern Colorado. Every time the ball leaves his hands, he connects with the bottom of the net. This is a guy.
Good pun.
Thank you. This is a guy averaging 20 points, 5 rebounds a game, 48% from the field, 40% from 3, almost 80% from the free throw line. He's averaging the same amount of points he did at Tennessee that he did at Northern Colorado. I mean, there he goes against Peter Carey right there. I mean, scooping and scoring in the paint of the Maui Invitational. This was potentially the best player in that tournament, a tournament that included Zach Edey and Purdue, the eventual winners in Honolulu. Dalton Connect has been so impressive. He's scoring the same amount of points I mentioned as he did at Northern Colorado while playing 5 less minutes per game at Tennessee. A huge jump in competition. He's a consensus, probably, I would say unanimous, first-team All-American right now, and he might be playing his way into a lottery pick.
Wow. Srikar, what's your response?
My response is Hunter Dickinson. All right, the size speaks for itself. 7'2". The guy averages a double-double. He has 13 of them this season, and the impact he's made on this Kansas team, which is a strong team at that, a top 10 team in the nation. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. He leads the teams in boards and block shots. I mean, he's everything you want out of a physical 7'2" center who can also produce on offense. And in my opinion, that's made such a big impact on Kansas. It adds another layer to your team because you have the shooting, but do you have that physical presence inside? And I think Hunter Dickinson provides that perfectly.
Now, it would be crazy for me to not go with the guy who was the best transfer in the history of the transfer portal. But I am crazy. And Dalton Connect, he's just been so good for the Tennessee Volunteers this season. He's a scoring machine. It doesn't matter what defense is put in. Dickinson, he is a really good player, and he might make me look dumb come March. But Connect has been phenomenal.
He will.
He's playing himself potentially, like you said, Ethan, into a lottery pick out of nowhere. So that's 3 points. We're tied up at 3-3. This is tremendous television, folks, right now.
Right where I like it.
So we're going to the bonus question. We're going to the bonus question. Srikar, you'll be answering first right here. The bonus question is as follows. Which men's basketball head coach is on the hot seat right now? Srikar.
There are several different coaches that you could name here, but one really sticks out in mind to me, and that is what Jerry Stackhouse is doing at Vanderbilt. Now, last season, if we flash back to the end of last season, Vanderbilt was looking kind of promising, all right? They looked pretty good. This season has been a complete tank, and a loss at home to Presbyterian to open your season, I mean, that just sets the tone right there. And now they're 6-17. You lose to Arizona State, bad. Boston College, bad. LSU, another bad one. I mean, this team just struggles to score as well, generate any type of offense. I mean, at this point, it's going to be a complete shock if if Jerry Stackhouse, is still the head coach after this season, because this program is sunk and they need a new guy.
I don't see how you could possibly make the argument about which teams a team lost to when I can talk about Kenny Payne of Louisville. Do you know what Louisville's record was last season? 4-28, Srikar. 4-28. They've only won 8 games this season. You know who they lost to this year? Chattanooga. DePaul. We know DePaul is bad.
They fired their head coach.
Already. Arkansas State. You know who Kenny Payne lost to last year? Bellarmine. Wright State. App State. Lipscomb. I mean, this guy should have been fired last year. There is no reason why Kenny Payne should have a job as a college basketball coach.
Srikar, all you had to do was say Kenny Payne. I'm sorry, but I really wanted to give it to you. I really did. But Kenny Payne is just, it's the easiest answer of all time. It's unfortunate. He's a nice guy. He's a really nice guy. But Kenny Payne, Ethan, you win the juicer. Srikar,
well played.
It was a really valiant effort. It really was. But after the break, and as Ethan downs this no pulp orange juice right now,
delicious.
We're going to be talking about the State of the Union. A bunch of teams we like, a bunch of teams we don't like. We'll see what we have in store. Don't want to miss it.
Oh, say, can you see Austin and I back here on No Pulp? It's time to dive into the State of the Union of college basketball. We teased it a little bit earlier, but we're going to talk about some teams, some leagues that we might be worried about, that we're feeling good about. Austin, we'll start with you. Yeah. What are you feeling right now?
North Carolina. What are
you feeling about the Tar Heels?
Look, I feel like I'm not ready to jump ship with the Tar Heels. They've lost 2 recent games at Georgia Tech and versus Clemson, but it's just like Michigan football in the sandwich spot when they had to go at Penn State and versus Ohio State. I'm not worried about the Tar Heels at all. I still think they're a very well-balanced team. RJ Davis is a baller. He scores a bunch of points. This whole team, they got 3-point shooters, they got rebounders, they got big guys down low. If I had to pick a team right now to win it all, I might just pick North Carolina.
I kind of agree with you, and you know the team I'm not picking, that would be Kansas. We just talked about them a little bit earlier. Srikar talked about Hunter Dickinson. I just don't see it right now. I mean, it's Kevin McCullough Jr. and it's Hunter Dickinson, and that's really about it.
Harris is good.
I just don't believe in the strength of the Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 has not been very good in the tournament the past few years, besides Kansas, and this Kansas team is not as good as the one in 2022 that won the national title. I think the non-conference schedule holistically of the conference is a little bit fraudulent, and that's why so many teams have been ranked and have been in the top of the net, and that's why the league is doing so well. I just don't really believe in Kansas as a national title contender when you compare them to teams like UConn, Purdue, Carolina, Houston, teams of that regard.
Yeah, I definitely think this is not one of Bill Self's best teams. I mean, I really like KJ Adams, the athleticism,
and if they do well,
he
credit to Bill Self.
Exactly, yes. But they just don't have enough options coming off the bench. They need to score the ball. I just don't think they will.
No. All right. We got one more for you, State of the Union. We're going to talk about the ACC a little bit because I think this is a league that deserves a little bit more love.
I agree. This is a team, this is a league that's been, it's frankly, a lot of pundits, naysayers, so quote-unquote, I should say, experts, they don't like the ACC.
People are saying they might only get 2 teams in the NCAA tournament.
It's ridiculous. It's blasphemy. It's patently ridiculous. Whatever you want to say. This conference should get firmly 5 teams in the tournament. Wake Forest lost Monday night against Duke at Duke. This is a really good Wake Forest team. They should be in. Virginia has rattled off 7 consecutive wins. Clemson has Sweet 16 written all over them. Carolina, as we said, is a really strong national tournament team. Duke's in the Elite Eight team. This should be a 5-bid league.
Easily a 5-bid league with the way Wake Forest is playing, and you never know, a team like, I don't know, NC State could potentially sneak onto the bubble. The ACC, I mean, 2 Final Four teams in 2022 and 1 last year with Miami. All right, that's our State of the Union of college basketball. We got our plays of the week and our final words still to come on No Pulp. Stick with us here on Citrus TV.
Here we go. We're going to go out there in the rain. You're going to get wet. All right, here we go. Go, okay, quick. Oh, yeah. Yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
Wrapping up shop here on No Pulp, Austin Barach, getting you set for a play of the week. I scoured the entire internet, and I really wanted to pick Joey Spolina's goal at the end of the first half against Manhattan. It was crazy stuff. Tremendous hand-eye coordination, but because of the stakes of the game, it couldn't happen. We go to College Station, Texas A&M against Tennessee. Jace Walker throws down an incredible casual 2-hand slam. You see it here on the fast break. Here he goes, Jace Walker, big time game. Look at the atmosphere in College Station. Goes up, casual, and he hangs on the rim because he's so cool. Cooler than the other side of the pillow.
Surprised he didn't get a technical.
Shout out Stuart Scott. I'm surprised too. If that was Jason Tatum, he would have been teed up. I know that for sure. But the stakes of this game, A&M needed to win this one. Jace Carter, play of the week for me.
That was a really impressive dunk, but I'm going to take it a little bit outside that, Austin. Let's go to half court. Let's go to College Game Day taking place in Lawrence before Kansas and Baylor over the weekend. You know Reese Davis, the host of College Game Day, he always brings up one student to shoot some half-court shots. You get 20 seconds. How about Ellie McCarville? You know what I would have done if I hit the half-court shot? I would have done the Mr. McGiblets dance. I would have been so excited if I hit that half-court shot for $19,000. I mean, what a moment on College Game Day. So impressive on the first try. Mobbed by Jay Williams. Impressive moment for Ellie McCarville, freshman, first try, $19K. Love to see it.
That is great stuff, Ethan. We transition now to the final word. My final word is this. I believe that Tom Izzo is about to orchestrate another classic late season surge. Think about Michigan State this season. Got a top 5 preseason ranking, stumbled at home out of the gate to JMU en route to a 4-5 record, this time 2 months ago. But since then, the Spartans are 11-4 and just beat then number 10 Illinois on Saturday. I love how A.J. Hoggard plays the sport. Tyson Walker is a bucket, and I know they got some tough road games coming up, but boy does Izzo always have his team playing well for the home stretch. Think about some of the great coaches who are no longer in the game. Roy Williams, Jim Boeheim, Mr. K, he's not my coach. It's nice to have one old-timer still doing it, still providing that sense of normalcy this time of the year.
January, February, Izzo.
Yep.
We'll see if that comes to fruition. But it's not often in college sports that a player plays so long on a team or with a program that their return to their old team is a noteworthy event. That's something mostly saved for professional sports. Think Brett Favre returning to Lambeau Field with the Vikings, LeBron James returning to Cleveland with the Heat, or Johnny Damon returning to Boston with the Yankees. You get the idea. But in Syracuse this weekend, that happened, as Joe Girard, who played 125 games for SU over 4 years, made his return to the Dome to face his former team. Girard is one of the most polarizing players in Syracuse basketball history. From a strong freshman season to a down sophomore year and bouncing back as an upperclassman on Jim Boeheim's final 2 teams, it was one of the more memorable SU careers of all time, for a lot of reasons. All this is to say that the moment we witnessed on Saturday was rare and is not likely to happen again in Syracuse for quite some time. No matter how you felt about Girard's poor defense, sloppy turnovers, or lights-out shooting, he made you talk. And that's why Saturday's game was so important, because moments like that won't come around very often. But when they're special and emotional when they do.
Ethan, I couldn't agree more. I mean, Joe Girard, you're right. A very polarizing player. You love him, you hate him. If you're a Syracuse fan, you probably hated him on his way out, but at least on Saturday, you got to feel at least a little bit of
Were the boos deserved on Saturday?
They were deserved. And my take is that they're deserved because he mattered here, right? He mattered at Syracuse. If he was a nobody, he's not worth boos. He's not worth the boos if you're just some Joe Schmo averaging 5 points per game. But he made a lot of big shots. He missed a lot of big shots for Syracuse, and that's why I think the boos were deserved.
I agree with you here. You get booed if you matter.
Yep.
I think that's a really good way of saying it, and especially when you transfer in conference
That
and
matters.
you come back to play here, that's going to happen.
All right, Ethan, Frank, Austin, Barach, thank you for watching. Thank you to the producing team. You can catch the full episode on our YouTube at CitrusTV.